This is the Analysing Anfield podcast on the Blood Red channel, bringing you the best tactical and statistical analysis of Liverpool FC.
Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Analysing Anfield, your tactics and analytics podcast, courtesy of the Blood Red channel. I am joined by David Hughes. How are you doing today, mate?
Very good, mate. I was saying to you, you probably see it now. I went to get a coffee this morning, got soaked and didn't get like another shower when I've come back in. So I'm a bit like a cockatoo on top of here. So apologies to the
apologies to the YouTube viewers. To be honest, those that have been with us for a long time will know that this is borderline like a hairdressing episode, really, isn't it? Blood Red hairdressing channel.
Yeah, we've had some. We've had much worse than this, haven't we? So. Hopefully people only tune in to listen to what we have to say about football anyway.
Yeah, don't call the thing down the line. I ever being called a caveman, I think, at some point. I don't know what to come up with for you.
Yeah, hopefully, to be honest, mate, I stay away from the comments most of the time. So, but I do have a look every now and again, so make sure you're being nice to us because we do sometimes have a little gander.
Yeah. So this week, a little bit between posts in terms of where we are, whether we're in last season, whether we're in this season. Transfers and stuff is not a great deal happening, just lots of speculation at the minute. So we're just going to talk about a few things that are just sort of floating around for Liverpool at the minute. So we'll have a little bit on Liverpool friendlies, not some of the matches, but two standouts in terms of Billy Koumetio and Rhian Brewster. Obviously we're going to look into the Charity Shield, which I can't believe is on Saturday. We're recording this on a Wednesday. It feels really weird that there's a competitive fixture on the Saturday, despite the fact that Liverpool I think Arsenal in fact have only played one friendly in this time. So the schedule's just a bit mental at the minute. And then we're probably going to round up the podcast, see where we go with it, but we're probably going to round up the podcast with the talk about Lionel Messi. Which I must admit I didn't come on a Liverpool-related podcast, but bear with us with that. This isn't going to be us talking about why Liverpool can fit him in and how much he'll cost and all this sort of stuff. It's going to be, I think it does relate a little bit to Liverpool in terms of rivals in particular, that link with signing and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's football-related, it's Liverpool-related. So, we will get into it at some point. Maybe, depending on the time. Maybe it'll talk about Wijnaldum or Thiago or something like that, but to be honest, I'm kind of waiting for that to get a little bit more serious before we talk about that event and does happen. Obviously, we spoke about it a few weeks back. But yeah, Liverpool's friendlies then. So, Billy Koumetio, Dave, I know that you have, in the past attended youth matches and things like that. Are you previously aware of this lad? Have you seen him play live or anything like that?
No, actually, this is something I was thinking myself when I knew we were going to talk about him. I was trying to think back to if I'd seen him play, and if I have, it certainly doesn't stand out. I seem to watch a lot of youth football, kind of like 17, 18, 19. I remember seeing the likes of Curtis Jones playing a lot and stuff and looking at Gerrard's under 18 side, but I think he's only just in the under 18 side now, and I'm not even sure if he's a regular in the 23s, but I could be wrong. Maybe someone will correct us. So no, I haven't seen a lot of them actually. All I've seen really is the same kind of clips from the friendlies that we've all seen. But looks a unit, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean he looks really good, to be honest. Obviously without getting carried away, but I think Liverpool are really good at doing some of the club. They're really patient with when we get like a bit of a odd void or anything like that, and particularly in pre-season, rather than committing a transfer to a certain thing. I think Klopp is more inclined to basically say, can we address this internally? And if we can, then we'll do it. And I think he's looking at Koumetio at the minute as a means of potentially saving a transfer fee on a level replacement, basically. I think Liverpool have got, if you look at it, actually, Liverpool's squad, we've got a lot of potential in the centre-back zone in particular. If you think of Van den Beek, who I know you've spoke about in the past in this podcast, you got Keanu Hoover as well. And now you've got Koumetio, who, for me, I think Hoover's, really, really good, especially on the ball, things like that. I think in terms of Liverpool's game and what Liverpool and Klopp in particular need from a centre-back, I think despite being 17 years old, I think Koumetio seems to me as though he just fits the bill more. I mean, Van Berg's obviously got the hype. It's questionable as to whether he's got the pace. Keanu Hoover, I think the last time I checked, he was about 5'10", 5'10", maybe he's a little bit more than that, but Koumetio's 6'4", 6'4", makes it a 17-year-old.
Yeah, it is big, and you think, that at that age to kind of be illustrating not only some real power pace, but he's got size at that age is quite unique. But I think it's probably worth pointing out at this stage that from what we've seen anyway, you've already said that you don't get carried away, of course. He also just looked really composed and intelligent, didn't he, in his play? He looked like just a very cool character on the pitch, which is fairly rare for a young player. I'd also put Van den Beek in there as well, in terms of his kind of composure. I think he'll fill out a little bit more over the next few years and still be a good defender for Liverpool. But he looked really good. For Klopp's comments were interesting afterwards, where he said he doesn't look like a kid. He said he's got the face of a kid, but the rest of them, the term he used was wow. Just kind of classic Klopp, really, isn't it?
To be honest, you saying that it takes back to when we attended the Statsbomb conference, and he was, I think it was an Ajax tour. It was a tour of the head of sports science, I think, and she had pictures of who was it, Justin Kluivert and Matthias de Ligt, and it had their ages, but then it had next to that their actual physical age in terms of where the bodies are at and that sort of thing. I think it was, and I think de Ligt, despite being, I think 18 at the time or something, had the body of like a 23-year-old or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And Kluivert, at the age of about 17 or so, had the body of about a 17-year-old. So obviously, if you can factor that sort of thing in, I'd imagine Koumetio being 6'4", despite being a 17-year-old, he's obviously got the physique there to mix it with adults. Adults, clearly, he's probably got the body of a 23-year-old himself, similar to this.
Well, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's a physical game, isn't it? And that's not to say you write off players who are 17, 18 who are still quite slim in build, because the natural kind of development as these begin to age, they will fill out and kind of catch up physically. But yeah, normally those players who are kind of at that height build at such a young age normally tend to have a little bit of advantage. And when you've got the advantage physically, you can start fine tuning other areas of your game, and that's why you probably see those players start playing more regularly for the first team a little bit earlier than others, really.
Yeah, I think for me the most important trait of a club centre back is for the player to be dominant. If the player's a dominant player, he's got a real chance of being a top centre, basically. And I think the thing with Koumetio is he's already demonstrating the almost a natural traits of being able to be that dominant player. Clearly, dominance in his first few minutes playing for Liverpool against Stuttgart. I think he cleared 2 corners straight away, like Van Dijk does. Clearly physically dominant. He looks quite quick as well for the size. One thing I put on as well, I watched all of his actions against Stuttgart, all of his actions against Salzburg. I do not know what his preferred foot is. I couldn't tell you, honestly. I would, at a guess, probably say left foot, but genuinely really, really two-footed. So considering, as I said, his size, physique, aerial dominance, his age, 17 years old, 2-footed, which means maybe he can play either side. Yeah, I'm looking at him and thinking, this is a really, really valuable asset to have, as a centre back, really valuable squad player who's potentially going to be worth quite a lot in a few years' time if he evolves as you expect him to.
Yeah, I think it probably could be a little bit too soon this year. I mean, I could be wrong, by the way. That's just my opinion. He may go on to kind of bed into the side this year and finish the year fairly strong. You have sort of other examples of players doing that last season. I think Everton, I thought Brathwaite come in. They only brought him 16 or 17 from Carlisle. League Two, miles off Premier League level, you'd anticipate, but he ended up coming into the side and being arguably Everton's best defender post-lockdown.
How old is he now?
I think he still might be. Let's have a look.
Teenager still or?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, he just turned 18 in June, so he was. So you're talking just turned 18, playing in the Premier League, and not just. But he's another one who's physically well built, good height, strong, and you'd be surprised. These kind of really good talents, when they have the physicality to go with it, they tend to already have the mental aspects of the game in terms of how to play really, where to be positional wise and stuff. Because most of these players have been in academies since they were, younger than 10, maybe even 5 or 6. So me saying he might not be ready for this year, I don't know. He could quite easily end up being the kind of cover for Lovren who departed in the summer. And I don't know if maybe that's the path you were leading down, Josh.
Yeah, no, that is what I'm thinking, to be honest. It depends how ready he looks, but I'm just saying, I think I'm particularly focused on the physical side, but he's clearly ready from the physical side for me. In terms of being able to cope with the adult game in the Premier League and that sort of stuff. Whether he's actually good enough on the defensive side and whether he's technically good enough when pressurised and all that sort of stuff is a different story, but it would depend simply on how many minutes Liverpool would expect him to get as full choice, and maybe in a match where he would say, for example, what you have got what's up is so Koumetio could easily become third choice, and say for example he has to come in against, in the Champions League match. Maybe that's not ideal, so maybe you just throw Fabinho centre back match. Move one of the midfielders to number 6, keep Koumetio on the bench. So I think you could use him because of the versatility of the squad. You could use him quite sensibly. I think but it depends how ready he is. But if Liverpool want another fourth choice centre back, and if you're looking on the market and stuff like that, you don't just want to go and throw money at it just because you need a fourth choice centre back. It's not really I mean, how much do you dedicate to that player?
That's you're not getting anybody really cheap, and if you are, the chances are they're going to be, not good enough. And you've just reeled off an example that Liverpool could be in a Champions League game with an injury hit, and the player to come in and do a job. Now we don't know for sure if he could do that job, but equally, you might be bringing a 28-year-old in that you've had to pay 15, 20 million for, who isn't good enough. It does seem wise to allocate a budget to do that if you have got these kind of budding, developing, exciting talents waiting in the wings.
Yeah, it's just about looking at squad solutions. Like, say for example, we do sign Thiago as rumours suggest is going to happen. If we sign Thiago, that's one extra midfielder, but that could then, and Thiago's comfortable in the 6, by the way. That could then mean Fabinho becomes the fourth choice centre back / Koumetio, as I've said just then. Depending on the opponent, depending on how easy the match is going to be. It's just about little, moving things around in the squad like that if you can do it. Obviously, the midfielder permit Fabinho to sporadically become an extra defender if need be. So, perks of having a versatile squad.
Just quickly, Did Koumetio come through the youth system, or was he brought in anyway along the way? Do you know?
Well, there's a bit of a grey area around this, but I think we got him from Lyon
Okay.
a few years back. In fact, not even a few years back. I think it was as recently as last year.
Right.
About 18 months ago, something like that, I think.
Okay.
But there's a question attached to whether we got him directly from Lyon or whether he left Lyon for something like a 6-month period, allowing him to easily move to Liverpool or something like that. There's a few questions around it. Because according to transfer markets, at least, we got him from Orleans under 19s, a French club. But apparently a year before that, he moved from Orleans to Lyon. So I don't know. There's a bit of a mix-up there.
I mean, I suppose somewhere along the line he's come from France, hasn't he? Because he's a French national, isn't he?
For me, the fact he's been at Lyon's academy system suggests he's got a bit of talent, because Lyon are, quite renowned for that sort of thing, aren't they? Bringing through players and developing them, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the next Liverpool, I think this is certainly an academy graduate, Rhian Brewster, continuing to impress, Dave. Scored against Stuttgart and scored 2 against Salzburg. Without Brewster's goals, Liverpool would have scored a 2-0 against Salzburg. I'm actually writing about him right now for the Echo. That'll probably be going up later today or tomorrow or so. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Brewster, Dave? Because I'm assuming you've seen him quite a few times.
Yeah, I've watched a fair bit. Coming through. I really like him. I think he's always looked really, really dangerous. He's always seemed to lead the line quite well.
One question I have about him.
Go on.
In comparison to the kids, has he always looked a level above, or has he just been the type to just consistently score goals and take opportunities as opposed to looking a level above your peers?
I'll be honest, it's difficult because I felt like he's been on the radar for a long time. So when I was watching him, he was a player I was looking for. Do you understand? So it wasn't like I was blind going to see him. I don't know. He always looked good. He always looked really good. I don't know if I was ever thinking he is 100% level above all these players, because Liverpool have always had decent academy sides. If you think of players who've played in there, Casey Jones, an obvious one. Harvey Elliott obviously came in last year and stuff. So Ryan Kent as well. They've always had kind of decent players, and he always felt like one of the better players, certainly. But I'm not at all surprised by his success. I don't just mean like in these friendly games. I thought he was phenomenal for Swans. Really had a massive impact in a really tough division. And I think he could kind of be a little bit of a wild card for Liverpool this year.
Yeah, I think he could. I mean, talking about squad solutions earlier, obviously Liverpool's failed to land Timo Werner, and we've been on the lookout for a backup forward sort of thing for quite a while. I think there's a question mark as to whether Brewster can play as a wide forward or not, because if he can't, bodes a lot better for him than if he has to play through the middle. Because if he has to play through the middle, Liverpool's system changes, because he doesn't play like Firmino does. He's not inclined to drift off as Firmino does, to provide kind of like a glue in the final third sort of thing. And I think Firmino's a 10, a natural 10. Brewster's for me a 9. So it makes things a little bit there. But yeah, it's tricky. It depends how Klopp's perceiving him, how Klopp's viewing him.
But then, I suppose one thing is probably worth flagging is it isn't always a bad thing to have a legitimate alternative game plan, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like if you did have to adjust for whatever reason, and we know how efficient Liverpool's setup is as it is now, but if you maybe need a more natural kind of focal point of the attack at number 9. Now, off the top of my head, I'm not sure how I'd picture everything happening around him. But if you just needed that player, he could be that. and you know that you put him in, he'd probably do a really good job at it. So it's maybe not the worst thing having that kind of alternative option, I guess, because that's one thing we've said now, haven't we? Where, okay, it's normally when we're talking about getting players into the system as it is now that Liverpool struggle, but beyond the kind of starting 11, that certainly from an attacking point of view, there isn't always those other options, is there? I do think he potentially gives Liverpool that other option.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I think one of the things Klopp's getting at with his quotes, I think I'll have a little look what he said now. But I think he basically wants them to do more than just scoring goals. He said he can learn a lot of things, but as a natural goal scorer, that's what he is. He can be more involved in games, but the decisive moments, he is 100% there. Now, if you read that quote to me and didn't tell me who it was about, I would think that was about David Origi. I think it's interesting that Origi has a spec right on the edge of the front three sort of thing, gets occasional minutes, but Brewster doesn't. I'm curious as to whether it's maybe to do with tempering expectations regarding Brewster, not really wanting them to put the red jersey on in the Premier League for Liverpool until he's really capable to kind of burst on the scene as Rashford did or as Mason Greenwood did, sort of thing. But I can't really get my head around why Origi would be ahead of him, considering the two types who aren't really that involved in the game, but when it comes to a moment, they are capable of taking it. And Origi doesn't seem to me as, considerably more well suited to a wide forward role than Brewster does. They seem really similar, to be honest. The only difference is that Brewster's 6 years younger, and I think he's 6 years younger, and probably got one more higher ceiling.
Yeah, I think maybe last year development was the priority. The thing with Origi is there's not much more development to happen. You don't really need to please him. He's quite happy, isn't he, to just play this bit part role. Whereas obviously Brewster, you've just said it there, that the ceiling's so high, isn't it, that they obviously want him to keep charging towards that. I think a big low move is important. He got it at Swansea. And I think now he's really confident and he's put himself in the picture. Just on his finishing abilities, Josh, I just want to share this. Now, I say share there, I'm not screen sharing anything, just something I had a little look at earlier. But including his final few games for Swansea and the pre-season fixtures, of his last 20 shots, 15 have hit the target, which I just think is, an illustration of someone who's so dangerous and efficient in front of goal.
Yeah, I think we looked into how he was doing at Swansea, maybe for the Echo at the end of the season. I think since joining Swansea in January, I think his shots on target percentage was 50%. I can't remember when he'd attempted something like 45 or something like that, but he is clearly, to be honest, I was speaking to Joe Rimmer before about him, and I think one of the things I said to him was that, maybe the Premier League 15 years ago, Brewster is your absolute perfect striker sort of thing, because all them years back, a striker was in place to score the goals, stay in the box, find a net, that's it. They don't do anything else, nothing else. And Bruce seems firmly in that mould in terms of just almost drifting a little bit until he's presented with an opening. And then when the opening comes, he'll take it, sort of thing. But I think that the problem with that is Klopp's game being such like a total football vibe. Everyone attacks, everyone defends, everyone builds, everyone creates, all that sort of stuff. I think Klopp just wants Brewster to be able to offer a bit more. Say for example, if Brewster plays and doesn't score, I think that's the crucial thing. If Brewster plays and doesn't score, Klopp wants him to be in a position whereby he's not offering nothing. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So when he doesn't find a net, when Firmino doesn't find a net, for example, think of everything else Firmino offers. I think Klopp wants Brewster to be, to follow that path a little bit.
Yeah, it's you're spot on. I think that's it. In the same way that Liverpool's side can be quite, multifaceted in things like the way they attack and stuff. I think the players are as well. They all offer something more than just the traditional, don't they? They all have a certain versatility in the roles, no matter what they do. And yeah, I think it's a really good point. Brewster, we've just touched on it there about his shots on target, efficiency in front of goal. I think he always looks like a goal scorer. I think some sides would love to have him just for his goals. But yeah, in the way Liverpool does work system wise, you're right. He probably does need to maybe contribute a little bit more to be a real success beyond just someone who they'll throw in to get goals when they need them. And maybe that's the next stage of his development.
Yeah, I mean, still just 20 years old. Plenty of time to get there. But considering Liverpool are obviously looking at the squad at the minute, pre-season, bit of a weird transfer window sort of thing. I do think that at the minute, whether he goes on loan or not, I think at the minute it'll be right up in the air. I think it'll be undecided at the minute. Depending on whether Liverpool can get someone in, maybe in the mould of like an Ismail Assar or someone like that. And how Brewster continues to do. But I think the word is that if he does go on loan, it'll be to a Premier League club or a top flight European club. And the better he does, the more likely he is to come back and be integrated really. But I think if you compare it to the likes of Harry Wilson, who's been sent out on loan for a few years, I think Harry Wilson's been sent on loan to basically increase his value and his publicity almost. Where I think Brewster is being sent out on loan as a means of developing with a view to eventually staying in Liverpool's squad. Yeah, it remains to be seen.
And just on that, interesting to see where they potentially send him, because it'd have to be somewhere that does, develop him in line with kind of, how Liverpool play really. Because there'd be no point going somewhere where he'd just be playing like, what's a bad example? Yeah, like say in a front two or something. He'd have to be somewhere where he's kind of learning the things that he'd utilise at Liverpool, which then maybe do you make the case that he should stay and be integrated this year? I don't know. It's hard, isn't it, really? It's something that probably Klopp and the staff will be weighing up, won't they, and seeing whether game time's more important than trying to get used to this side. I just think of, I'm paraphrasing the quote a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Guardiola said something along the lines of to do with Phil Foden. He said, 10 games with Manchester City in the season more valuable than 30 games at another Premier League club. And I don't think that was arrogancy. I think I totally understand what he's trying to say on that point. So I just wonder whether Liverpool and Brewster would be in the same situation.
Yeah, to be honest, it's been a little bit of a surprise that, because I think Klopp is of the same belief. Curtis Jones hasn't spent any time on loan. Trent didn't. No Williams hasn't really. So with Brewster, it has been something that we've been doing. Obviously with Swansea, and we're looking at it again for the upcoming season maybe. So I suppose it does go against a little bit what the traditional approach has been since Klopp came to the club. But I'm not really sure why, to be honest. Maybe it's just the absolute lack of minutes he sees Brewster getting in the front three, considering the Nedved. We want to win the Premier League, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it remains to be seen. It'd be interesting to see his developments in the next few years. But I think in the next few matches, he'll play a part, particularly in I think it's the Community Shield now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Liverpool face Arsenal, who, as I said earlier, have played one friendly so far in pre-season. Liverpool have played two. So, to be honest, we can't give you much of a preview for this. I've got no idea who's going to play for Arsenal. I looked at who they played the other day. They played MK Dons, and half the team wasn't there. So I've got no idea how it's going to play out, Dave. But I think we can just maybe provide a bit of context on maybe what we can expect from Arsenal in the upcoming season.
Yeah, that's it. It does feel like it's come around very, very quick for them, very quick for everyone, but certainly them just playing one game against MK Dons. At least Liverpool played some stiffer competition in the form of Stuttgart, Salzburg. But yeah, Arteta, we saw last year kind of come in and he seemed to, beyond the analytical side of things and tactics, he just seemed to restore that, a bit of like a feel-good factor, didn't he? He become quite precise and clear with his philosophy, something that I think Emery struggled to really translate at Arsenal, which was part of their downfall. They seem to stop shipping as many goals, although interestingly, underlying numbers suggest that they probably should have conceded a few more than what they did. So I still think there's work to be done there, but they are improving the defence this summer with like Saliba coming in and stuff. But yeah, you can kind of get a feel that how this side's going to look under Arteta. It's going to be, a side who plays regular football, organised and certainly competitive. I think that's what we can probably anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, against MK Dons, they actually lost the possession battle.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Should have told me before the stars of rabbiting on.
Yeah, they saw 46% of the ball. MK Dons made about 71 more passes, which is quite amazing.
Doesn't look good for them. What
And
league are MK Dons in now?
I mean, tell you, looking at Arteta's squad on the day, the squad wasn't great, but the actual first 11 wasn't actually that bad. We had Nketiah up front, Aubameyang, Xhaka, Saka, Maitland-Niles, Tierney, Saliba, Bent Lennon goals, Cedric. So I suppose it was a bit of a first 11 there. I mean, a lot of the players that came on I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So I don't think he had much of a bench.
I've just had a look now. Sorry to interrupt, but MK Dons had the highest ball possession average in League One last year. So it's just their philosophy, mate. So it's not that bad. But yeah, it sounds like they still had a few first teamers to probably get the result, but you don't know, maybe things drifted in the second half with those subs that you've just alluded to. Then.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Arsenal still seem really far from the end goal sort of thing. But I think that they could have a season. Obviously integrating Saliba. I think is it Gabriel or Gabriel? How do you say?
I think it's if they sign him, I've been calling him Gabriel.
Okay, I know we're obviously looking Dave, but I think that would be two centre back upgrades immediately. There, two players who are going to be a lot more capable of coping with the demands on the shoulders. Obviously, defending 3 yards from goal and stuff like that. Obviously, we talk about that quite a bit in reference to Manchester City. So I think that'd be two really different centre backs there for them to start playing with. Obviously, you're having Willian as well, who I would be surprised if Willian is ready for the Community Shield match. I don't think he'd be even on the bench the other day. But yeah, I think providing he can keep the players fit, particularly the fullbacks, because I think he seems to suffer a lot of injury, Tierney and the opposite side, Bellerin. But yeah, I think looking at the team, they look. It'll be interesting to see how they do this season. I don't think they'll, be anything special, but seeing improvement.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think it'll be interesting to see if I know you touched on it there, where they go with that, if they maintain that 3 at the back, because it seems to work quite well. But I get the feeling that they just brought that in really because, they had like the likes of Louise in there and a few others who were just prone to a few mistakes, aren't they? And it feels like, when you have 3 there, 3 at the back, you have great control and there's more cover for any mistakes that do go on. I wonder if they have better defenders next year, whether he might go back to just playing 2 centre backs and have more bodies elsewhere.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting.
I think it'll probably depend on the capability of Saliba and Gabriel. I think if they're both clearly really, really good. I know they're both. I know Saliba's a teenager. I think when he bought, I'm not sure if he still is now. Gabriel, how old is he?
I think, if I remember correctly, he's about 23, 24. Let me just check. 22, so a year out.
Two, see, they're two good age centre backs now, and if they can start integrating them as a two now, you could have your back two set up there for a number of years. I don't know if you saw, but they actually appointed a set piece specialist. You see that?
I didn't see, but I watched or saw someone else speaking about it on Twitter.
Yeah, I think they poached from Brentford. And those who have listened to this podcast for quite a while will know that last season we actually spoke about Manchester City poaching a set piece specialist, also from Brentford. So it's quite interesting. Arteta doing exactly the same a year later in his new job at Arsenal. So whether that could play a part in the Community Shield final, obviously considering that the standard is not likely to be great. Maybe it could be decided by a set piece. Maybe he could immediately repay the investment by delivering the Shield for Arsenal.
That's a good shout.
So in terms of winning the match, does it matter?
Well, I feel like I should ask you really, because you've got a more emotionally invested interest than me. Just quickly, my opinion is it's kind of something that you want to win, but you also don't lose sleep over losing. But I don't know if maybe you feel a little bit different, especially with it being, obviously Liverpool, and they won a few kind of, not dismissive of anything, but they won a few similar, kind of one-off games, didn't they? Or one-off finals last year with the Super Cup, and then the World Championships was 2 games, wasn't it? But you're probably better taking the floor on this.
No, I think you're right. I think out of all the trophies you can win in a calendar, this one matters least. The Super Cup and the Club Cup have actually meant quite a bit, to be honest. It means World Champions, technically. It means Super Cup, European Champions and all that sort of stuff. But the Community Shield doesn't mean a great deal. When you win it, it matters. If you don't win it, doesn't matter. And you do move on pretty quickly. Having said that, with this one being against Arsenal, last year's one was against City. I feel like against Arsenal, we should be winning it. And, in a one-off match against Manchester City, you can lose it. But I feel like if you lose against Arsenal in this one-off match, it just won't feel good, and it won't bode particularly well for the upcoming season. More so than last season, it didn't really matter that much. I think we lost to City on pens in the end. But if you lose to Arsenal, considering Liverpool finished top of the league, Arsenal finished 10th or something like that, 8th. It doesn't bode that well if you lose. It doesn't feel that great in terms of the morale perspective, maybe, and confidence going into the new season, all that sort of stuff. But in terms of who's likely to win, where would the money be?
Liverpool for me. I think beyond having the better squad, being the better side, I think, a lack of kind of competitive fixtures for Arsenal is going to be difficult as well. As I said, Liverpool have played only 2 themselves, but Stuttgart and Salzburg are significantly stiffer challenges than MK Dons.
I should add in as well, was that to believe that the Salzburg game obviously ended 2-2, but I was led to believe that in the morning Liverpool had quite a heavy session, just as a means of obviously building that fitness thing before pre-season sort of thing. So obviously if you shatter from the morning and you end up playing Salzburg, who press like monsters in the afternoon, you can understand the 2-2 result there. But I assume that when it comes to the Charity Shield, Liverpool will have all day for fresh legs.
Plus they'll just have that better psychological edge, I think. As we've just said, we're not saying this is like a major trophy, but I think you'll still want to win it, won't you? So for me, I just can't see past Liverpool. I think it should be I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because these games do tend to be hard to predict. But you asked me where my money is, and I'm going Liverpool. Assume you'll be the same.
Yeah, I am the same. Yeah, I think Liverpool have got maybe a week or 2 in advance of Arsenal in terms of training. More players already involved, with the exception of Trent, who don't seem to be seeing on any photos and like that. But yeah, I fancy Liverpool to win that match. Whether it's through a set piece or through a moment of madness or just lack concentration, and it's the second competitive match Arsenal have played this season. So yeah, we'll see. So Lionel Messi. Why are we talking about Lionel Messi there?
Because, well, I would say somewhat surprisingly, he's forcing a move out of Barcelona. But I don't know. I'm not saying I ever anticipated this day coming, but bear in mind how the last 18 months has gone at Arsenal, Josh. Is this that controversial that he just thought,
I'm assuming you mean at Barcelona. You said
yes.
Arsenal there.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely not Arsenal, and he's definitely not going to Arsenal either. But yeah, just how the last 18 months have gone at Barcelona. I'm kind of generally not that shocked at his thoughts. The club's clearly not being run well. It hasn't for a long time, has it, Josh? And then they brought Koeman in, which just seems such a bizarre appointment to kind of get going back to the club hero thing. A lot of other big European sides have done it, but it just screams to me that you don't really have a plan. And maybe he's thought, I've got 2 years, 3 years left at most, and I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah. I think just you could go right away back to the Roma loss, when they lost to Roma in the Champions League. I think since then, it's just kind of went downhill, really.
Yeah.
People have obviously said that Liverpool broke Barcelona, sort of thing. When we obviously we've contributed a lot to it, but I do think that Barcelona were just massively on the decline way before that. Really, mismanagement, terrible recruitment. Most of their top earners, their best players, are now well over 30. I think Suarez, Piqué, Messi, obviously. Arthur is a player who are bringing, obviously going to come back to be the next kind of lead the midfield for the next few years, sort of thing, and to selling him for a 30-year-old Pjanic, to a swap deal sort of thing. The Alba's 32 or something like that. It is a mess. You brought Griezmann in for, I sort of think I said Griezmann's on 800 grand a week. And I think he's like 29, can barely even play. You got Phil Coutinho there, who I think is the second or third most expensive player ever. He's just scored 2 and assisted 1 against you a week earlier to knock it out the Champions League. It's unbelievable how much of a mess the club is in. And I think Messi has had reached a point where he's putting his foot down and saying, I'm doing this to instigate change, or he's genuinely leaving, probably as a result of thinking, I'm not being appreciated, I'm getting the mick taken out of me, basically, with the club just thinking I'm going to stay, even though everything's a mess. You know what I mean? So, yeah, part of me, a lot of me, to be honest, I don't blame him for doing what he's doing.
Just on Barcelona in general, before we keep talking about Messi, I've been saying, for me, they're really arrogant club, actually. I'm not saying it's like them. I know a lot of people do like Barcelona, but I just think, the way, like, they don't have it in a contract, for example, that Coutinho couldn't play against them. It's just kind of this, he's not enough for us, we can play against us because it won't matter. And the way they've kind of just gone about the business of just, we're not really going to put any effort into our recruitment, just who's makes all the headlines, who's the big name, we'll just throw X amount of money and then we'll just take who we want. And they just feel like there's no football brains there anymore. They're just kind of really arrogant, thinking they'll just do whatever, and they'll be successful no matter what happens. And it's I've kind of enjoyed them getting a little bit of a come almost.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's maybe too harsh, or I don't know if you agree, Josh, but yeah, that's how I feel.
I have as well, yeah. I think there's a bit of an entitlement there, a sense of entitlement. I really think they are deserving of everything, and that's not really how it works. You get to the top through good management, really, and through good activity in every department. I think Barca got to the top, and since getting to the top, I think they've just got a little bit lazy, and I think they've just kind of went down the route of persistent short-term deals to stay at the top. But if you keep papering over the cracks, eventually it's going to fall to bits. To be honest, it's not. It's a popular thing to happen. I think when a club gets to the top, they do kind of just think we just have to stay. So just start poaching elite players from like here and there, like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid and Juventus seem to do plenty of bins between them, sort of thing. To be honest, it's been a little bit of a concern initially with Liverpool with Thiago. Thiago's that type of player, really, in terms of being a world-class 29-year-old who's maybe either in his peak or past it. That a top club would just sign for a few more years at the top. I don't think that's what Liverpool are doing, but I think it's probably along the lines of what Barcelona have done too much of. Ousmane Dembele spending 150 million, when clearly, in terms of his character, at least he went AWOL at Borussia Dortmund to force through the move. That should have been immediately a red flag before you even sign him. But yeah, they are just a mess. And in terms of Messi coming to England, probably I can't look beyond Chelsea, City, and United. What is he adding to a rival if he did come? This is obviously pure speculation. This is crazy when you can talk about it, but what does he add to a team, Messi?
So as those three clubs, I'd say Chelsea's a no, isn't it? Just because I think what they spent already on attackers. I don't think United's an option either. So you probably are looking at City. I don't know. It's really, I mean, let's take the obvious stage. I think he's he's probably the best player ever. Unbelievable player, unbelievable dribbler that produces absolute moments of magic that other players simply can't do. I think he's superstar, biggest player on the world. What even for a side like Man City, who won multiple Premier Leagues in recent years, arguably one of England's best sides, he would catapult that club to a whole new level worldwide, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and he just bring this kind of he just bring another dimension, I think, to the way. See, the problem I have here, which I'll just be brutally honest, I know we'll come to it. I just think it sounds so crazy to say, but in some ways he's also a difficult player to accommodate because it's less about your structure for the 11, and then you have to kind of accommodate this elite player.
Yeah.
So it's just playing on my mind a little bit. But in terms of positives, everything I've just said there, he's a phenomenal player. Can't really say anything that hasn't already been said about him. Top player.
Yeah, I mean, if he was added to one of the top six, I think you're looking at about 10 to 20 points in a single player there, I think. Obviously, the higher up the league you go, the less that is. You can't really add 20 points to Manchester City. Yeah. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of he's in those matches where City, the very infrequent matches where City can't find the key to the door, you have a ridiculous solution there in Lionel Messi, who is clearly a benefit from dominate the ball. Maybe he'll get on board with the whole pressing approach that Pep Guardiola's obsessed with, that I think has gradually kind of disappeared since Guardiola left the new camp.
That's just to add on your point, Josh. What I would say is I'm kind of like, if I was saying about the one negative I alluded to then, it would maybe that you do kind of have to accommodate this superstar and maybe adjust your tactics. But in the same way we were saying Barcelona's got comfortable, he's maybe also been comfortable in his role within that side and hasn't really felt he's had to do anything extra. Perhaps if he did go to Manchester City, not that he'd need to prove anything really, but he may have this, extra desire to contribute in other aspects of the game that he probably may have not been doing it at Barcelona.
Yeah, the word was that Ronald Koeman had walked up to him or spoke to him on the phone or whatever and said, "Your privileges are over." which is quite an unbelievable note. Yeah, it's an unbelievable statement that to say to the best player ever. But I agree with why he's done it, which is mad. I do think that the days of kind of accommodating one player and letting him walk around the field while everyone else defends, I do think they're a little bit over. I think that's a lot more of a structured game. We were speaking earlier about Brewster being a striker in the traditional Premier League mould, just standing in the box and putting it on the net. Messi, maybe not that far back, but is a bit in that mould in terms of being given a free role and being allowed to do basically what he does, and being a player who solely comes alive when you've got the ball, and when you haven't got the ball, he's you've basically got 10 men. So yeah, I know what you're saying in terms of the downsides of adding them to a squad. I do think he does have to be accommodated, and considering the accommodations he require at the age of 33, I think he's 33, and the age he's on, like, is it worth such short-term adjustments to accommodate, okay, the best player ever, but also a player who got longer, maybe?
Yeah, that's it. You just summarised it perfectly for me. And, I think Manchester City can probably do it. They've already got that Guardiola connection. I think that existing relationship would be positive. That's the only real destination for me, City. I think that deal could work. And they've got so much money that they could afford to pay his wages without it destroying them financially.
Yeah. I also get it do a lot for them in the commercial side in terms of getting fans. Like, so many fans are just fans of players now rather than fans of clubs. Juventus has got so many more followers when they got Ronaldo in the club. So I think from City's perspective, wanting to become this elite, move to the elite table of European football, getting Lionel Messi, it would do a lot for them on that side of the game. And but maybe overlook how good the player is. So I'm going to reel off his numbers.
Here we go.
It's just daft. It's crazy. So in the past 6 years in La Liga only, his goals, starting this season and then going backwards: 25, 36, 34, 37, 26, 43. And assists going this season backwards: 20, 13, 12, 9, 16, 18. So on the goal side, you have a total of 201. And on the assist side, you have a total of 88. So it is insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane.
I'm trying to check now. If I'm right in saying, aren't I? Yeah, Al Shearer is still the all-time Premier League top goal scorer with 260 goals, and that was it was well over 10 years, wasn't it? And your real, was it 5 or 6 years there?
That was 6 seasons that
6.
year.
So in 4 seasons fewer, he's about what was it, something like 40 goals off that, 50 goals or something?
Yeah, both 50 goals off it, maybe.
Yeah. So you think, like, you'd only need maybe 12 goals. It's just, you need maybe 12 goals a season from here on out in that same time, which, you'd back him to do all day. It shows how insane his numbers are. Of course, he's already, I don't have it top of my head, but I know he's already destroyed a figure of 260, hasn't he, in La Liga over the years?
Yeah, without doubt.
Yeah, we're just talking about the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, like those 6 years, this is just according to Understat, but those 6 years don't even include his time under Guardiola, which is obviously scary. In fact, I'm going to get them up now just to have a look at them. But in terms of his shot numbers over the 6-year period that I've just used, he averages, this is over 6 years, he averages 5.4 shots per 90. And in terms of shot assists, so providing shot for others, he averages 2.6 per 90. So you've got a player there who's taking 5.4 shots himself every match, while also providing about 3 shots for others per match. So on his own, he's adding about 8 shots per game, minimum really.
Yeah, just one single player is basically creating or taking 8 shots per game. That's mad.
Yeah. So I'll go before the 6-year period now. So this is from 2013-14 and then backwards. So 28 goals, 46, 50, 31, 34, 23, and then we get into the teenage version of Messi where he's got 10, 14, 6. But yeah, at one point, one specific season, he scored 50 goals and assisted 16. It's just crazy. The year after that, as I said, 40 goals, and that season he got 11 assists.
Yeah.
In the year before his 50-goal season, he scored 31, but he assisted 19. He's just
insane.
The definition of an output merchant.
36 league hat-tricks. And you think about it, like, to players, you know, one hat-trick is kind of like a career standout. And you're talking top players, aren't you? Every now and again, they might get a handful, but 36 hat-tricks is mad. I know people like to be dismissive of La Liga, but you'd anticipate it. In many ways, it is as competitive as the Premier League. It might be a different style of division, of course, but it's certainly up there with the Premier League in terms of competition. And to score that, I've just checked now, Josh. I think it's 444. He scored the league goals. So if you think Shearer's record is 260 in the Premier League and he's on 444 and he's not retired,
it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, as well, considering this is obviously an analytics show, in terms of expected goals, we obviously talk about what it means: expected goals, underperformance, overperformance, sort of thing. So any player that overperforms his XG is commonly defined like, he's an above average finisher. When it comes to finishing shots and finding the net with shots, he's above average. So Messi, over the course, again, of the past 6 seasons, this is according to Understat, he's overperformed his XG by about 35 goals. That's over a 6-season sample. Overperformed last season by 7. Then he actually underperformed by, I think that's 1. Can't really see it. Season before that, though, he underperformed by 10, 5, 10, 4. So he's clearly, in addition to being ridiculous, he's clearly an above average finisher as well. When it comes to being presented with shots and finishing them from mad angles and all that sort of stuff, whatever he wants. Just he's the best player ever. There's no doubt about it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I getting into that debate because I do really like Ronaldo, and I think maybe the difference between those two players. I mean, we're definitely not going to open this can of worms, not this debate, because boring debate ever. What I will say is I always felt like Ronaldo, whilst an unbelievable player, I don't believe he was born with the talent that Messi was. I just think Ronaldo works so hard to get into that competition and to be there and to post his crazy numbers. Whereas I think Messi is just not. Of course, he worked hard, no doubt about it. But I feel like he was just born the better player. But yeah, I think as I said, I'm not getting into the debate. Messi is just being on another planet, really. And some players. So purely from a football point of view, I'd like to see him in the Premier League. I wouldn't lose any sleep if it went to Manchester City because I think he'd fit quite well there. But maybe from a Liverpool point of view, and I don't know where you stand on it, Josh, you probably maybe wouldn't want that to happen. I don't know.
Well, I'm right on your side and saying I would love to see him in England. I really love to see him in England. To watch him every week, for him to consistently be on Match of the Day, to see from an analytical perspective how his game is impacted by not only playing a different league but playing for a different team. It would just be so interesting. I'd love to see it. But from a Liverpool perspective, Lionel Messi joining Manchester City is Manchester City buying the league. It would be extremely hard for Liverpool to win the league against not only the Manchester City side that we're currently facing, but that team plus Lionel Messi. It's just daft. But yeah, so I'm absolutely torn there. A lot of Liverpool fans, die-hard Liverpool fans, I assume would be, no, I don't want it to happen, sort of thing. There's a huge part of me that would like to see it happen. But from a competitive standpoint, obviously, it does kind of push the needle even further towards the City monopoly sort of thing. You think of most City matches, they are a non-contest. And every now and then when they do face a bit of a contest, that's probably going to happen even less if you've got Messi in your team. But I suppose, having said that, we mentioned that he's a bit of a passenger on the defensive side. So, there's two ways looking at that. So, from an analytical perspective, which is what the show's about, it would be very interesting. But I can't see him coming to Liverpool.
yeah, we should probably rule it out. It doesn't work on any level, does it, financially or
No.
for the reasons we've said. Liverpool are a unit that can't really carry anyone. I do think, just before we do wrap up, that's the only sad thing about Messi, really. I feel like we got to watch Ronaldo, for example, every week. Okay, Liverpool fans wouldn't enjoy it because it was at United, but you got to watch him. Whereas Messi, yeah, you've seen him on the Champions League or the odd La Liga game, but I know personally, I watched him week in, week out at any point, really. So it always feels like you're always playing catch up, watching highlights, or, as I said, watching the Champions League games. But it would really just be nice to see a player like that every single week. In the Premier League.
Yeah, just considering the stylistic nature of the Premier League, a little bit more direct, a bit more physical. The weather's a massive impact on English football, and Messi's had to deal with, largely 20 degrees sun for basically a decade. So it would be really, really interesting to see. I'd love to see it, but I also wouldn't like to see it. So it's a difficult one. Remains to be seen whether it'll happen. God knows. If it does, we may go into further detail about it, because it's obviously a massive impact on the whole season. But we'll wrap up there, I think. Next week, I am actually off. First week off in a while. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with the pod. I'm not sure whether Dave's going to head it up himself, or there's going to be a week off, or what. But hopefully, I mean, just knowing my luck, Liverpool will sign Messi during that week off.
We'll draft you in on your holidays, mate.
Yeah, I'll still probably be throwing the odd tweet out. Dave will also be certainly heading the Analysing Anfield newsletter for the week. That'll be his first edition. I sent one on Monday, I think, for those who have signed up, and it was just titled, "What Does Genie Wijnaldum Do?" And it was just, a bit of an insight into that, because he's kind of the main sort of condiment alongside Thiago, because a little bit of a conflict there. So if you haven't signed up, again, what are you playing at? Go and sign up. Find my Twitter at Distance Cover to do it. And Dave, I'm not sure if you want a quick plug of Analytic 5.
Yeah, it's appreciate the support so far. Obviously, we talked about it a couple of times. I'll keep it brief, because I can't sell it the way Josh did there, and use what he's playing at. But to stand up, it's in my Twitter bio, and it's very analytical, very tactical, daily newsletter, not too long, just little bites, not just on Liverpool, on many other sides. So I want to keep your finger on the pulse in terms of what's going on in football. It's completely free. Sign up. Only need your email, no name, address, nothing like that. And me and Josh, we work on that, and we'll send something really.
Yeah, recently actually on Billy Koumetio. So obviously from a Liverpool perspective, that's relevant. That was on why nobody wants Phil Coutinho, basically, from his perspective, and trying to bring a few little points together to capture why he's such a difficult player to buy at the minute. But yeah, we will round up there anyway. So I will be back, unless something mad happens at the end of the week and we have to record an emergency show. I will be probably in about 2 weeks. But yeah, sign up to the newsletters, and Dave, thanks for joining us.
Cheers, everyone.
And, yeah, we will be back soon. Thanks.